My warning to the current Pentecostal charismatic movement, that if we continue as we have done, within 20 years, we will collapse Christianity all over Africa. Now we are booming, but I see an imminent collapse because there is a huge confidence gap between what we promise and what we deliver. We are promising to be what we are not. And we are teaching things that do not make for biblical, theological reasoning and logic. And pretty soon, it will catch up on us. For the next generation of pastors, although God used your fathers in spite of their limitations, you would have to be trained differently. The days of God called you from the street, you are in the pulpit the next morning, is over. So we don't go about breaking people's marriages because the Lord told us.
You know, I find myself doing a lot more videos about Pastor Chris Oyakhilome of recently, and I don't understand why I am so attracted to him. I don't know why, but I just can take it with some of his takes on things. Remember, like I said before, he is one of the richest preachers in the world, and I personally believe that he is a very, very smart person. He is very, very intelligent. He has written a lot of books. He has produced a lot of CDs. In fact, he works way more harder than an average person. I believe so. He is very, very hardworking. Because like I have told you, okay, and this is a fact. No one ever gets to this level of success without being a very, very hard-working person. You don't get to this level of success by just sleeping around, by just lazing around. You must be intentional. You must be consistent. And most of all, you must be really, really dedicated. You can never get to this level by just lazing around. Never ever. You can never get to this level by not understanding what you want and how to get it. Never ever. You cannot get to this level without understanding people and how to deal with them. There's one caveat to this. Understanding people and how to deal with them does not necessarily mean that you are being fair with your dealings with them. Okay, you can still understand people while manipulating them. You can still be smart, be intelligent, be bright, be hardworking while stealing from the same people you pretend to be protecting. Okay, so let's just keep these things straight. Now, coming to what he said in this video that made me want to comment on it. You know, I have always thought that giving money to the church was exactly what it is. Like, I give money to the church, it means I am giving money to the church, and there is no other thing than the process and the name. That's what I've always thought, right? That when a pastor comes and asks us to support the church in one church project or the other, and we actually took out money from our pockets and gave it to the church or to the man of God or to the usher or to whoever was collecting that money on behalf of the church, it was exactly what we were doing, giving money to the church. But Chris Oyakhilome wanted to remind all of us, or me in particular, how ignorant and stupid and dull I have been, thinking that giving money to the church was exactly what was going on. That actually giving money to the church is not giving money to the church, but is giving to God. So the money I give to the church is not exactly what I did, but I gave it to God. That was what I did. How stupid I have been. Thank you, Pastor Chris. Thank you for making that very, very clear to all of us. Thank you. The money I gave to the church for the church project was me giving it to God, thinking I was giving it to the church. Oh, thank you. What a stupid guy I have been. Thank you, Pastor Chris. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for that clarification. That meant a lot. Honestly, it did. It did mean a lot. Thinking that giving money for them to build a church was giving money to the church, not knowing that was giving money to God. And the man of God wanted this to be very clear and even told people to their faces that the reason you've been having problems is because you thought giving money to the church was giving money to the church. And let me just say this before I continue. When they come up with things like this, know that there is more to the story than they are telling us. There might be fire burning somewhere. This cannot just come from nowhere. Because when he said, the reason you are having problems, maybe with the church or with a man of God, who knows, was because you thought that giving money to the church was exactly what it was. Not knowing that actually you are not giving money to the church, you are giving it to God, because the church made no promises. You know, the church is just there to collect. The church has made no promises to anyone. So if you thought that you were giving money to the church, you were mistaken. But I mind you, the church preach prosperity gospel, isn't it? The church preach seed sowing, isn't it? So if a man of God comes on the pulpit and say that when you sow seed in the house of the Lord, you will reap 1,000-fold, isn't that making promises? No, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Okay, you guys out there are more knowledgeable about the Word of God and pastors and the Bible. So you guys can educate me on this. When a preacher comes on the pulpit and said, if you have money with you, sow it in the house of the Lord, and the Lord will replenish your coffers. Isn't that making of promises? Isn't it? Isn't it? You see, this is where I have problems. This is where I have problems, because some men of God can be very, very manipulative. Very manipulative. After you collect people's money, after you use the money to buy yourself a private jet or build a mansion for yourself, after you use the money to build buildings, massive auditoriums, after you use the money to educate your children, you now turn around and rub insults in people's faces. You told them to their face that what a fool they have been for thinking that the money they gave to the church was exactly what they thought it was. What a fool they have been. Well, what can we say? what can we really say? Like the man of God put it, the church is collapsing, or the church would find itself in a very difficult situation in the nearest future. Because when men of God start saying things like this, and people start hearing what men of God say, rather than being grateful, rather than being appreciative, and rather than being gracious, they turn around and throw words and throw insults at the people. What do you expect the people to do? Just swallow it and stay quiet? What do you expect them to do? You know, I appreciate not just men of God, but any single person who is grateful, who is appreciative, who acknowledges people's effort and did the bare least of saying thank you. You know, I appreciate people who did all that. But I really hate it. I really, really hate it to see people being so arrogant, being so ungrateful, being so unappreciative. I really hate it. But then again, that is just me.